on, fam. Let's try to get through another one relatively quick. I saw you in the chat. Poor Yvette. She laid in whatever. Listen, we're going to try to get through this one fairly quick. You know, I try. I don't always succeed. I just be setting up a lot of stuff. So listen, fam, here's what we're going to do. We have to, as always, do our work at the beginning. So please hit the like button. Please, if you have not done that, please do that right now. Hit that like button for me. Please do not forget, especially if you're going to be at the conference. If you're going to be at the conference, please make sure we're going to do the book club review after the conference, no matter what. But please, if you're going to be at the conference, try to read the book. Where do we go from here before you go there, before you come? Because it's going to be instrumental in terms of what the call to action that I have. So please try to do that, fam. Please try to do that. If you have not picked it up, please pick up the book. I appreciate it. Also, fam, like I said, book club, you can go to subscribe to Brown, subscribe-to-brown.com. God, what's going on with my glasses? Subscribe-to-brown.com, please. And you can add yourself to my mailing list if you have not already done that. I like to have you all in one place so that I have access to you and I don't have to go through necessarily a throughway, another social media, another platform owned by somebody else to have direct contact with you. Cost you no money. Now, if you want to donate, you can go to donatebrown.com, patreon.com/Carnell. You can do that, or you subscribe to the newsletter, which will be in the description, or ADOS merch, MERCH.com. You can do all of that stuff. Up to you. No pressure on anything except hitting that like button. I'm pressuring you to do that. And please, if you have not hit the bell button, please hit the bell button to get notifications. So I would really appreciate those things if you would do and share. None of this, we got to share with our peoples. And I know they don't get it sometimes, but we got to share anyways. So I want to get into it because it's very interesting. Some things are very interesting. We had a very interesting morning. I woke up to a very interesting text from Antonio. He said, "Did you see this?" That's how Antonio's text sounded to me. "Did you see this?" And it was the black, let me tell you, the most shenanigans come from the Black Caucus's Twitter feed. And that's because of, I'm not going to get into it, but maybe that's because of who handles their social media. I believe that person should be fired for a lot of reasons I'm not going to get into right now. But they talked about, or they described slaves and slavery as indentured servants, as if the slaves, and we talk about Dr. Cosby, and we talk about say Stevens, and we talk about the Angela Project, as if Angela, that the first slave, as if that group 1619 entered into some kind of contract for indentured servitude. That's not what happened. And see, some people will say, well, Yvette, they had a whole nother thread after that. They said some really good stuff. When you start with indentured servitude, you ruin everything. The rest of what you did is ruined. And I think you know it. Because these were not indentured servants. But even if they were, what they were is basically slaves. Like you had some slaves at that time who became not slaves anymore. But a lot of that had to do with America. And America wasn't built at certain points to handle, it wasn't as efficient. See, the mechanisms that oppress ADOS right now are very efficient. They are supremely efficient and mechanized. You didn't have that always. So just like race has evolved from like having this class in between, which is, the mixed race, to then the one drop rule. You remember Denmark Vesey, there were mixed race people who could access whiteness. Then you come all the way later on and you're talking about a one drop rule. Things evolve and change as the hammer comes down with white supremacy over and over and over again, and as it gets more efficient. But they were still slaves just because some became unslaves, or because the ones before that, there was a Washington Post article about some Africans before that who came here or were slaves here, brought here, and how they just kind of revolted and disappeared. Whatever you did, that doesn't mean you were never a slave, because you were not a slave for a time. And the one thing I want everybody to understand here, though, as we talk about this ignorance from the Congressional Black Caucus that we keep having, as we talk about that, please understand what I'm saying. What I am saying is this. And I saw, somebody put up a post from Jelani Cobb back in February where he said the same thing as the Congressional Black Caucus page. And I think Nicole Hannah-Jones said, no, that's not true. When they were going back, I don't think they went back and forth. I don't think Jelani said nothing else. But the point is this. What we are living right now is not a legacy of indentured servitude. We are living a legacy of slavery and all of the accrued disadvantage that has been toppled on top of that. Anybody who cannot full-throatedly not only advocate for ADOS, but tell that story with that as the central narrative cannot be a leader for ADOS people. You cannot lead. You are not fit. You are not worthy. If you can't do that, listen, if you're a fighter, you're on a square. If that's your square, this slavery, this disadvantage, this is the legacy. You don't got to go on Twitter and say, well, it actually is kind of true that they were initially, some of them were, I think it was 40 of 20 was that they were indentured service. Isn't that I have to consult my academic book. Now you're wrong on the merits, but even if you were right, how do you not know how to stay on that square? I'll tell you why, because you don't know how to fight. So you all over the place. Race is not some kind of theoretical idea. It is an idea in terms of how it was created. It was created out of an idea. Hey, we got to have somebody on the bottom. We're going to make these Negroes. We're going to put them down there. They're going to stay down there. And that way, that's the way it's an idea. But in terms of how you advocate with flesh and bone. You're not advocating from the point of an idea. This is a flesh and bone advocacy, and you're doing it wrong because you don't know how to fight. Either you don't know how to fight or you don't want to fight. Either way, I don't know. Either way, exit stage left, please. You ain't always got to talk, Jelani. You always talking and saying nothing. Sometimes it's good to hush. Nobody asked you to say anything. That was in February. It's in that whole Twitter stream from this tweet I have up. Because you sound like Daughters of the Confederacy. How they tried to re-educate. You know, the Daughters of the Confederacy, but the people who get, how minorities get reparations, get affirmative action now. Like women, all women, including the women who, you could be a Daughter of the Confederacy and go get a affirmative action. Ain't that something? Ain't that a bag of beans? But they talk about it too as if slaves were workers and slaves were indentured servitudes or whatever. No, that's not. No, you sound like them when you say that. And this Black Caucus tweet sounds like that. We're being trolled. Understand that we're being trolled by the CBC. That's basically what's happening. We're living the cost of slavery and being trolled by our own leaders. Ain't that something? That really is something. You don't got to talk all the time. Just because America didn't have the structure to maintain the kind of slavery that evolved, it got it though. It got it right. But those people who were sold by the tribes that captured them and sold other African people to the white man, they weren't signing a contract. They didn't agree. I'm going to come over here and do this. No, they got taken and enslaved, and if they got free or whatever, if some of them, that's what it was. It just is what it is. It is what it is. The Congressional Black Caucus, because this is not the first time. You remember Sheila Jackson Lee retweeted something from the little child who talks. What's his name? Jonathan Capehart, about how ADOS doesn't understand nuance, as if he'd ever written anything nuanced. So we're being trolled. ADOS is being trolled by the Twitter feed of the Congressional Black Caucus. Imagine that. Now understand that they would never consider trolling or gaslighting DACA recipients or La Raza or nobody else. But you are trolling your own group. Ain't that something? What does that say about how I should support you and in what capacity? How? So I think what we have to understand as we look at this tweet is that everybody's playing. Everybody's playing. So the CBC will put out this tweet and it'll say something that sounds a little Sean Hannity-ish, a little Rush Limbaugh-ish. that makes us into, we're all immigrants too. We came as indentured workers and they came as, as opposed to everything that came after. And the person who operates that Twitter feed, according to what I'm hearing, is blocking all people with ADOS in their description, in their bio. So you have a person, Congressional Black Caucus, who is operating their Twitter feed to lock out the people who put you in office. You better watch out, because I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm not a Justice Democrats person. I'm not a CBC person. You better watch out before you lose your job. Ain't nobody dealing with this no more. You better understand that there are two worlds right now. There's the pre-ADOS world and there's the post-ADOS world. And you better learn to navigate it, because I have no sympathy for anyone, because nobody is doing the bidding of ADOS in terms of our debt and in terms of we don't need to get trolled by our Twitter account by somebody who loves the grapevine. Y'all know what the grapevine is. Y'all remember my whole thing on lipstick? And how they just use ADOS and ADOS issues for clicks. And when they have ADOS person on, they don't want to have them on no more if they get roasted. Call America a transit country. It isn't your country, ADOS. That's what they told one of their guests. That's the person who operates the CBC page. You tell me what's up. You tell me why they blocking all of us. You tell me why, if you have ADOS in your description, we getting blocked by somebody who's not ADOS. How? And when you think about it, let me just say this. Reparations is this essential mechanism that we would have. We've done it before to close the lineage wealth gap. And somebody brought this up before, and I'm just going to say it now. The problem is, somebody brought up, our good friend JB brought up, like, well, Bernie said they got this and they got that, and he signed on to HR 40. I just want to say this as I go on. Let me just say this while it's on my mind. Let me just get it out. You came up, Bernie, or whatever candidate, Biden, I don't care. You came up, everybody's coming up with plans for everything. Everybody has a plan for everything. A plan for Medicare for all. A plan for this. A plan for that. A plan for student debt cancellation. A plan for housing. A plan for turkeys. A plan for chickens. A plan for gerbils. Whatever the case. Y'all got plans for everything. Just signing on to HR 40. HR 40 ain't nothing but a study. And it's a bad study. And it's not a real witness. A lot of stuff got to happen with that. Toss it all. But let's just say, you didn't need to. When you go and talk about other issues, Bernie and every other Democrat that's running, you don't say, well, I signed on to something in Congress. That's my plan. I signed on to a bill in Congress. That's my plan. No, you say, here's my plan that my people wrote, and it's up on my website. So what I want to hear from all of them is, what's your plan? Is your plan up on your website? What is your plan? No, don't tell me you signed on HR 40. You wrote a plan for everything else. Where is my plan? Where? Or are we just going to all run around and wear kente cloth and talk about it's the 400-year anniversary and how wonderful everything is, and not talk about reparations? Reparations is the work. Nobody wants to do the work, though. And let me show you why. I want to show you two things that indicate how everything is being snatched back. Because as we go into this, remember something. Remember race, the existence of race. If you are a member of this bottom caste group, which is ADOS, race eviscerates class. There is no class for you because there's race. Every other group has classes. Oh, we got the poor, we got the poor, we got the lower middle, upper middle, elite, super elite. We got all these little classes, not us. Because of race. That's why we have it. And so you look at even how the government has weaponized itself against us. Well, how, Yvette? What are you talking about? How is the government redistributed away from us? Well, because we have no wealth. Nearly no wealth. It's held in other hands, white hands. But look at this. Where in the U.S. are you most likely to be audited by the IRS? Humphreys County, Mississippi, seems like an odd place for the IRS to go hunting for tax cheats. It's a rural county in the Mississippi Delta known for catfish farms. And more than a third of its mostly African American residents are below the poverty line. But according to a new study, it is the most heavily audited county in America. Now, full disclosure, years and years ago, feels like another lifetime ago, I worked for the IRS. I don't know how they targeted anything. I'm not even sure if I did. Could I tell? Did I sign anything? Anyway, I'm not sure. But the point of the matter is, the government chooses winners and losers. Winning and losing in America isn't a matter of just like, well, you just pull yourself up. You work hard. The government is actively choosing winners and losers. And let me tell you something. People say, well, Yvette, there are poor white people that get caught up in that too. Well, why is that? Okay, well, the earned income credit, which is meant to help poor people, is what the government is targeting, because they've lost out to the rich. They lost to Amazon a little while ago. They can't do nothing with the rich, so they just targeting the poor. Well, Yvette, are they targeting us? They're targeting poor. But we are disproportionately, let's just remember this chart as we go. When we figure out who's targeted. Let me move this over a little bit. Hold on one second. This is our life. State of wealth by percentage. Bottom 50% of black households worth less than $1. Less than $1. That's our life. That's the life that we live. Just pay attention. Understand what this means. Now look at this and understand exactly what this means. I want you to just understand there's no other way to do it. The bottom half is actually negative, like 120 billion when added together. You can't do nothing with that. You can't be American with that. Understand, when you look at this, don't look at this as data. Do me a favor. I want you to stare into this and look at this as your life. Because even if you're doing better, understand that this is your family. And what this means for your family. Just understand that. Right? And how you will be called upon if you have not already to do things for your family. This is the life. So the government is choosing to target, instead of targeting rich tax cheats or whatever, and put the full force of the government against them, they're choosing to target us because of this tax credit. Well, what do you mean? We're disproportionately poor. It doesn't mean that white people don't get caught in the net, but the bottom of white people get caught in it. The poor people, they have a whole class system. All of us are getting caught. Like, we're getting disproportionately as a group because we don't have this class. That's what happens when you have upper mobility and you're not a bottom caste. You're distributed throughout the different groups, throughout the economic groups in your community. That doesn't happen for us because we're a bottom caste. So this targets us. And they have a nice little they really break it down. Shout out to ProPublica. The 5 counties with the highest audit rates are all predominantly African American rural counties in the Deep South. That's it. They own us. Now listen to this. The states with the lowest audit rates tend to be home to middle income, largely white populations. Places like New Hampshire, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. Generally, the IRS audits taxpayers with household income. Generally, the IRS audits taxpayers with household income between $50,000 and $100,000. The least. The ADOS, the black middle family, we're talking 35. The sweet spot for not getting audited is 50 to 100. The least. Think about what that means for your life and my life. And think about what it means when the earned income tax credit, which I said is supposed to be there to help poor people, and we're disproportionately poor. You saw the chart. EITC audits can be punishing for taxpayers since they routinely start with a refund being held and can drag on for well over a year. The IRS does sponsor a program to provide free legal help to low-income taxpayers. But in Mississippi, the state with the highest audit rate in the country, according to Bloomquist estimates, the IRS audits about 11,000 returns there each year. There is only one attorney for the program. So the government gives you, the IRS gives you a program for low-income taxpayers, and they give you one attorney. That's government resources. People, please stop telling me like all these do-for-selfers. We basically gutted y'all though. But please don't tell me, well, the government doesn't matter. No, the government decided that you don't get but one attorney. That's government resources being taken out of your community, and those resources are put somewhere else. Government chooses winners and losers. It chooses resources. It decides where the money goes. When I say resources, here money. Resources is money. See, they could, if they wanted to, they could put 500, 1,000, 2 in that if they wanted to. They're doing that so that you don't have access to what you need. Understand that. They're making sure that we as ADOS do not have access to what we need. What does that tell you? You got to stop. You know, one of the things that we have to stop doing, and I've talked about this before, but we have to stop this belief. I don't even know if I want to call it that, but it's almost like some kind of weird kind of religion almost, where we just kind of believe we can do it ourselves. Nobody else believes that. Let me just bring this up real quick for you. Hold on one second. This is from Antonio, and I'm gonna read it and I'm gonna bring the chart up for you. 8 million white families in their top 10% are splitting $75 trillion in total household worth, while the 18 million black families in our bottom 90% are all together only splitting $775 billion in household worth. Look at this. Hold on. This is 2018. Let me bring this right. This is wealth. This is white wealth share by white wealth decile. I want you to look at those numbers. Let me see if I can bring this up a little bit more. You see that? You see that bottom white wealth decile? None of the bottom image. What this basically says, they have all the money. They have everything. They have whiteness is everything, and they have it all. They have citizenship. They have everything. And even in the and the government is ensuring, the government is locking this up. White America is in total worth $100 trillion. The top 10% of their families are worth $75 trillion. That's 8 million families. Black America is worth $3 trillion with 2.25 in the top 10%. In total, there are 83 million white homes and 20 million white homes and 20. Listen. Listen. I don't think we understand. 83 million white homes and 20 million black. I don't think we understand when you look at how many there are and what they have. I don't think you understand that they have just decided they're going to lock up America. And the government is aiding and abetting. Your elected officials, our elected officials are aiding and abetting. When you go back to this IRS program, you want to know who got caught up in it? Remember Terry Sewell, Democrat, Western Alabama, includes some of the counties with the highest audit rates and who sits in the House and Ways and Means Committee. That's a powerful committee which oversees the IRS. And this dodo bird, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be mean, but it kind of had no idea. which said in a response to the study that taxpayers shouldn't be disproportionately targeted for claiming. Why are you on the Ways and Means Committee controlling the IRS while your people get targeted? What are you? Who are you? How slow are you? Your people get targeted by the IRS. You don't even know until somebody does a report. Why didn't you call for the report? Good God Almighty, what's wrong with you? I'll tell you what's wrong with you. Your priorities are all messed up. Because you also the same person that's got hookworm in third world situations. Your people live in third world lives over there, Sewell. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You over there talking about DACA, and you don't have many. It's not like you have a large Hispanic or Latino population you're representing. We did the data on you before. You don't. You're just running behind Nancy Pelosi, trying to please her instead of trying to please your constituency. You should never, anything immigration or immigrant or DACA should never come out your mouth. That's not your constituency. Your constituency got hookworm, third world conditions. The UN came to your place and said they never seen anything like that, and they never seen any developed country like your district, Sewell. And you running around here talking about a lot of stuff don't matter in your district. Your district's being taught. You on the Ways and Means Committee, ain't doing a god thing. You aren't doing anything. You are not worthy. See, the thing is, we have too many people who are running around who are not worthy of the positions that they hold, and it's our fault. How are we letting them hold these positions? How are we not holding these people accountable? Today, we stand with child welfare advocates, child physicians, and immigration reform advocates who know that separating children from their parents is inhumane and lawful. You know what's inhumane too, though? Hookworm. Feces coming out into the backyards. That's inhumane. You know what's inhumane too? Having we have a poor group, having that poor group be disproportionately targeted by the IRS, and you not even know, oh, we should not be targeted. Yeah, you ought to leave Nancy Pelosi. You ought to do your stuff. Nancy Pelosi ain't elect you. And then you had a lovely story to tell about somebody in your district. I'm Nancy, let me tell the story. I ran into a nice immigrant fellow. I'm going to tell you because I know it does good for the Democrats. Let me tell you something. People will tell me, well, Yvette, you know, if we do it your way, we might not have no black Democrats. So be it. Because then we will understand that we're not truly American and we're not truly represented in America. So be it. If you running behind a Nancy Pelosi and holding her skirt tails means that if you have to stop doing that, and if doing that means that we can't have elected officials, so be it. Go home. Then maybe we can understand that we really don't have black representation. Because you are not representing me. You people who are the CBC and everything, you're not representing me. What are you doing? You're representing this generic Nancy Pelosi-esque Democrat, which does very little for my specific group. That's a problem for me. Should be a problem for everybody here. Should be a problem for everybody within earshot of me. Y'all gonna let this man run around with kente cloth for what? Now I want you to get, let me get to something else. Because we've already shown we've been targeted. We've been targeted with the earned income credit. Like disproportionately poor people. These are black cities, so okay. People tell government doesn't matter. Yeah, government matters. This is the most powerful government in the world. When it targets you, it matters. It can help you or hinder you. And when it targets us, it matters. So let me go to the next thing. Let's talk about something real quick. Let me bring this up. Let's talk about Medicaid enrollment by race. Can we talk about that? Now I'm gonna go state by state. I'm gonna bring it up state by state. And I just want you to look at this. I know look at this black. The first column is white, as you see. The second column is black. Now let's just go state by state for a second. You'll still see that black, white. I want you to take a quick look. Just take what the old people would call a gander, if you will. Just a gander at some of these states in the proportionality. You see Alabama. We're talking about Medicaid. Alabama's at like 44%. That's black. Arkansas, 26%. Understand we're 14% of the population. So understand that these numbers that I'm talking about are you know, when I say 26, understand how high that is and how disproportionate it is to our 14%. Understand that's the accrued disadvantage. That is what we talk about from race racism, slavery, Jim Crow, convict leasing, the failure to make us right during Reconstruction. That's all of that. I want you to take that. Now, this is just to, I'm going to scroll down a little bit more. Idaho don't really have, I don't think Idaho have black people. You see Georgia, 46%. You see that? Look at Louisiana. Look at that number. Look at how disproportionate that number is. Remember, that second row is us. And we go down. Look at Mississippi. When you talk about Medicaid, by race and enrollment by race and ethnicity. Look at that. Now, that's the other side. We're gonna start in Mississippi and go down. Now remember that second column. The first column is white, second column is black. Look at we started with Mississippi 57. Go down to where you see black people. Look at us, like New Jersey 28, North Carolina 37. Look at how disproportionate those numbers are. Now, I'm taking you there because I want to take you here. Medicaid's dark secret. Before I do that, let me bring up this real quick. You saw how many of these states were in the South, right? Like with the Medicaid or whatever. Yeah, because look at the racial dot map. Look at that green. That's us. You see how that green flows down the southeast right there? You see that? You see that green is black? That's us. Okay, now let's move on so that you understand how we stand with Medicaid. Medicaid's dark secret. For many participants, the program that provides health care to millions of low-income Americans isn't free. It's a loan, and the government expects to be repaid. Did you know this program, and it surrounds mostly long-term care? Like if you have a parent who goes on Medicare after 55, or is on Medicare after 55 and has to go into long-term care, like if they have Alzheimer's or something like that, that you don't get inheritance, Medicaid is gonna want all their stuff back. And guess who has Alzheimer's a lot? Guess who? So we get Alzheimer's. We ain't got no money. We ain't got no long-term care. We never did that. And so you get Alzheimer's. We talking about Medicaid. The Medicaid program is not designed to be a long-term health care program, and they decide that they just want their money back. Now I want you to stand as we get into this. As we get into this, I just want you to understand one other thing. Before you start blaming people and going out, I just want us to get this all into context. This was signed into law by Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton signed the Medicaid Estate Recovery Program into law as part of his Deficit Reduction Act in 1993. Previously, states had the right to seek repayment for Medicaid debts. The new law made it mandatory. The policy arrived at a time when political rhetoric around individual responsibility dominated the discourse. And Democrats will say to you, well, Yvette, you don't understand. I had to do it because the Republicans were on me. No, you ain't have to do nothing. What you had to do was fight, and you didn't do it. You capitulated. Because nobody ever cares. And so we get Alzheimer's a lot, and the long-term care, because you need that if you have a person with Alzheimer's, but you don't have that. And so this woman walked right into that buzzsaw. The woman that we're going to talk about now, she had the parents or whatever, the father died or whatever, but the life insurance covered the mortgage, and then the mama had the house. Now the mama had taken out the second and third mortgage on the house. I don't know why, left the daughter in quite a pickle, and then got signed into a home while the daughter was away, was living in another state because she had Alzheimer's, and that's when the S hit the fan. It's a loan. Medicaid is not a program when you talk about long-term care. It's a loan. What do you mean, Yvette? It's a loan. What are you talking about? I don't understand. Okay. Well, let's just go through it. Let's just go through a little bit of the history of it, and we'll fly straight through. Estate recovery was billed as a sensible reform. States would recoup costs for the largest category of Medicaid spending, long-term care, such as nursing homes, from the people most likely to incur them, those 55 and older, in order to replenish the program's coffers and help others in need. If there was no money to be had in an estate, then the debt simply went unpaid. The goal was not to deter people from going on Medicaid, but to mitigate the costs. But guess what? It hasn't done that. From this boomer generation, it hasn't done that at all. It has barely touched the cost, which lets me know there's something else up. You weren't trying to touch the cost. You were redistributing wealth from the bottom to the top, and we're disproportionate at the bottom. That's what you were doing. Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich, that's what y'all were doing. Now, this is what happened to this specific family. The woman who we're talking about in this article, her mother got admitted to a nursing home, and this is her story about how she lost everything because of that. A guardian of the state admitted Edna into a nursing home and signed her up for the state's Medicaid program, Mass Health. Tawanda, that's the daughter, was relieved that her mother was being cared for while she was busy arranging her brother's funeral. But when she arrived in Boston from Brooklyn, where she and her husband had settled, she heard rumors about Mass Health robbing people of their homes as reimbursement for medical bills. Ain't that something? She soon learned that the rumors held true. Medicaid, the government program that provides health care to more than 75 million low-income and disabled Americans, isn't necessarily free. It's the only major welfare program that can function as a loan. Medicaid recipients over the age of 55 are expected to repay the government for many medical expenses, and states will seize houses and other assets after those recipients die in order to satisfy the debt. To satisfy the debt. Redistribution. From the bottom to the top. And we are at the bottom. So who does it disproportionately impact? Us. Mostly us. Long-term care, nursing home care. Have you had this conversation with your family? You know, in Boston, in Boston, black people are worth $8. Y'all remember that study? Do y'all remember that study about how in Boston, black people are worth $8, like ADOS, $8? How you gonna deal with this? If you come and your mama and you gonna and they had to go on because we don't have nothing, and so they bought a house thinking that this house gonna get me and I'm gonna be able to pass it on to my kids or whatever. And then they had to go on long-term care. They couldn't afford all the other stuff. A house and long-term care. That's how it goes down. And $8 ain't gonna get it. And you know why? Because we never got reparations. So let me go to the next one real quick. I'm gonna try to get through these. I think they're all necessary to the story. Sure enough, just weeks after Edna entered the nursing home, Tawanda received a notice that Mass Health had put a lien on the house. Tawanda called the agency and said she wanted to take her mother off Medicaid. She knew Edna had alternatives as a long-term employee of Boston Public Schools. A representative of Mass Health told her not to worry. If she took her mother out of the nursing home, the agency would remove the lien and make her and her mother could continue to receive Medicaid benefits. Don't you worry. If you take her out of here, don't worry. Don't you worry a bit. But Now I think now Oliver is Tawanda's husband. Now he came down with Alzheimer's too. Jesus, it was a lot. Like just like the mama, but that was her Oliver. So Oliver was there, but he got messed up. That was the husband, and Tawanda's there. Oliver and Tawanda had lived a modest but comfortable life in Brooklyn. He worked he worked maintenance for Time Warner. She was a bartender. To renovate the old house, that's the mama's house, that's Edna's house. To renovate the old house, they cashed in all their savings bonds and about $100,000 worth. They tore up the shag carpeting, refinished the floors, painted the walls, remounted the cabinets. They replaced the 1970s appliances, brown dishwasher, blue toilet, and mustard color refrigerator with all modern ones. They paid off Edna's second mortgage and third. Now, Edna, this is where I think you failed. Edna, why did you have a second and third mortgage, and why did your children not know? See, one of the things that we love to talk about, we love to talk about a lot of stuff, but we don't talk about the conversations that we do and don't have with our parents, and how they won't listen half time when we had the conversations. Listen, how come your kids see? How come your daughter didn't know it? About these second and third mortgages? And then there was a rule that the daughter could have gotten some leeway if she had lived with you in the 2 years leading up to when you went to the home. But see, y'all never even sat down and had a conversation. I don't even know if she knew you had Alzheimer's. I don't know what she knew. There are a lot of conversations that aren't happening in Black America and ADOS America that need to happen. Not because of rich or poor, but because we need to manage our lives and our politics. It all goes together. We need to manage all of this together. You don't get to just run off and die. We got to manage this. Who you think you are? We got already too many people. I love my political boomers, but we got too many of y'all who didn't do politics anyway. Now y'all don't want to talk. Cat got your tongue. You want to talk about this second and third mortgage on this house? Cat got your tongue. You want to have a conversation about what it takes for me to be able to keep this house? Cat got your tongue. So let me go to the second part. This is where everything falls apart with Oliver. Then in 2007, Oliver started showing signs of dementia. And shortly thereafter, he too was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Now Tawanda spent her days caring for both her mother and her husband, shuttling them back and forth to doctor's appointments, giving baths, clipping toenails, changing diapers. She cooked special meals. She cooked them special dinners as they started not being able to chew this or swallow that. After putting them to bed at night, if she wasn't too tired, she mixed herself an apple martini and read in the kitchen. Often her only hour of relaxation in the day. This went on until the end of 2009 when Edna died at home in Oliver's arms. Afterward, Tawanda received a letter from the Massachusetts Office of Health and Human Services. They back. They said she was all right. Remember, they said we all good. As long as you take her out of here, we fine. Now they back. She received a letter from the Massachusetts Office of Health and Human Services, which oversees mass health, notifying her that the state was seeking reimbursement for Edna's estate for Medicaid payments made on her behalf. For Edna's 5 years on mass health, she owed $198,000, $660.26, ladies and gentlemen. That's what she owed. That's what she owed. Now, what you gonna do about that? You see, as we go through, let me tell you what's happening. Let me just give you a clue into what's happening here. So, if you're really poor, they can't take anything because you don't have anything. If you're trying to climb out of poverty like the ADOS people in here, because her father was descendant of slaves, but if you're trying to climb out, what they're telling you is that there is no climbing. You can't be passing nothing down. And this could be as simple as somebody had cancer and can't get regular insurance, because that's what the writer was dealing with, who was white. You can't climb. There is nothing to give away because you're going to need Medicaid. You need Medicaid long-term care. And we're disproportionately blacks at a higher rate of Alzheimer's. If you have to go into long-term care, you can't pass anything down. We're going to snatch it. And it doesn't matter if you're a husband and let's say your wife had it, Medicaid, and you didn't have it. So what? No, I'm going to take your stuff too. You're the husband. We're coming to get this. Oh, and let's say you keep it. Because what they said is that, well, if you were the heir or the child or whatever, you can stay in the house and we won't take it until after you die. So you still don't get to pass it down. But guess what else they say? Guess what else they say? They say, well, it has to be in good repair. And it has, all the property tax has to be paid. So what happens in this situation, I'm going to skip through a little bit. What happens in this situation, even if you get to keep it, you can't take a loan out on the equity because it has a lien. And so you can't keep the house up. And when you don't keep the house up, they coming. It's a trap. And they charge for everything. As proof, the agency sent her a 28 itemized bill for every Band-Aid, every can of Ensure her mother had used. The state gave Tawanda 6 months to pay the debt in full, after which she would begin accruing interest at the rate of 12%. If she couldn't afford it, the state could force her to sell the Dorchester house and take its share of the proceeds to settle the debt. Tawanda reminded her caseworker of the lien release the agency had sent her years ago. But what they didn't tell me then was that they had a right to reinstate the claim on the property after her mother's death. This was a state recovery now, the caseworker told her, and there was nothing she could do about it. Ain't no wealth to pass down, honey. That's gone. We telling you, she had to go to the hospital. She got senile. It's finished. Some states initially resisted. This is what government comes into play. Stay with me, fam. This is government doing what government does. Some states initially resisted implementing estate recovery. West Virginia's legislators called it abhorrent in a federal lawsuit seeking to have it declared unconstitutional. An appeals court rejected the suit in 2002. Michigan became the last state to enact recoveries in 2007 after the federal government threatened to cut its Medicaid funding if it didn't. Other states opted to collect high-value assets or offered exemptions for families or estates worth less than a few $1,000s. But understand something. As we're talking, please understand me as I say this. As we're talking about the government targeting poor people, Medicaid, that's poverty. As we're talking about that, targeting the assets of poor people, understand what's happening in terms of the estate tax. You have the estate tax protecting the wealth of white multimillionaires and billionaires, because that's who has all the wealth. We don't even need to say white. When you hear multimillionaire, billionaire, you should just think that and go. Think it and run with it. You have all of the government officials protecting that wealth, and they're saying, when you hear them protect, they say these people have a right to pass down to their heirs. But we don't have such a right. And not only that, they just got a windfall. They just got the Trump tax cuts and everything. Right? They just got everything. So they get to, they not only have that, they have the knowledge to do it. Understand there's a knowledge gap here. When you don't have wealth, and we don't, you don't know how to protect it. You never had it. You don't know that there is a fix for it. There's no way for you to know. The majority of states took a harder line. Some started allowing pre-death liens, tacking on interest onto past due debts, or limiting the number of hardship waivers granted. The law gave states the option to expand their recovery efforts to include medical expenses, and many did, collecting for every doctor's visit, pharmaceutical drug, and surgery that Medicaid covered. Tawanda was relieved that her mother was being cared for while she was busy. But guess what happened? Right? That's just what it is. That's life. That's life. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't. Let me just put in a couple more things in here as we come to a close, because I want to finish this up. Whoop. It targets poor people with disproportionately poor. In 2005, the Public Policy Institute of the AARP published a study of the first decade of mandatory estate recovery. Thank you, Bill Clinton. Massachusetts, it found, recovered an average of $16,000 per estate in 2003, in a total offsetting a little more than 1% of its long-term care costs that year. That made its efforts among the most effective in the nation. In Kentucky, by contrast, the average amount collected from an estate was $93, What this also shows you is how important it is to be involved in what happens in your local state government. Because a lot of these choices in terms of how to collect and what to do are made by the state. And this is not the first time or the last time that it happens. And this is what Tawanda said. Like, they told her, well, you can sign it over, right? You can sign over your stuff, and we'll let you live there. But then she caught up with it. She said, I see what's going to happen, though. They're going to take everything from me because I don't have the equity because there's a lien on the house to get stuff fixed up. So I can't take, remember we talked about the consumer loans that you can take, the low interest loans to fix up your house? She can't access that because of the lien. And so they say if the house is not fixed up, they can take the house anyway. But that means she will have to pay cash to fix up the house. That's cash that she don't have. It's a trap. It's a trap. And I'll just end with what she said. She refused to sign the thing that the trap deal where she could keep it but got to keep it up and all of that. She no longer trusted Mass Health, and she objected to the deal on principle. From slavery years, we never got our 40 acres and a mule. We never got reparations, she said. My parents made their 40 acres and a mule with blood, sweat, and tears. And now they want that too. And now they want that too. As I close, fam, you know, it's interesting that she closed with reparations. Because what we are seeing now is that is the only way forward. Understand this. There's nothing that you can do. What they're wanting, $200K for 5 years is $40K a year. And that's not expensive in terms of American life no more. It's expensive for a bottom caste. You can't not have that $200K and then say you don't need reparations. You can't not see that bill come from your parent having to go to a facility when it hits your house or whatever and say you don't need reparations. The only way you can say you don't need reparations is if you can't count. And with a calculator, arithmetic is very simple. You have to be able to count. When you count, you realize that we don't have it, and the little that we do have and that we did accrue, they're snatching it back. And there is a fix. Let me see if I can find it. When we talk about, because I like the show. Hold on, let me see if I can get it. This is from the article. As I learned from reading lawyers' ads, it's possible to protect your assets by putting them into an irrevocable trust or transferring a deed to a family member before you reach retirement age. These are not loopholes the government allows you to plan. So you can circumvent that. Or you can have the money, which is American money, right? You need the reparations and you need the knowledge too. You need both of them. Like people say, you just want to cut a check. No, there's a whole knowledge thing. How many of us really understand that? And then there's a whole thing about how many of us could really even have a conversation with people and say, hey, you got to put this in a living trust. You got to get this out of here before you turn 55 or whatever. You got to change all this. If you don't have wealth, though, you don't really know how one would manage it, because what we really have is a house. It's not wealth. You wouldn't know how to do it. Probably wouldn't even have a cost for an attorney's visit. That's why reparations is essential. You need to be able to pay, and we should be able to pay. We've earned it. And we've lived something, forget just slavery. We have lived a disadvantage that is unlike any disadvantage, multi-generational, re-enslaved every year, unlike anything. The most effective form of oppression, of race-based oppression that the world has ever seen. That is us. We are old. There's a debt. And I don't care what you look into. Everything else that you look to try to solve it is solving a symptom. It's fixing a symptom, right? So it's like you have a curable disease. It's curable. Close the lineage wealth gap and do whatever and pour however much money or resources or knowledge into it. Pour all of that into it until it's closed. It's fixable. But it's like we and the government, too many of us just want to not fix it and just fix the symptom. You have a curable disease. You got polio or something. It's curable. But you just want to just like, well, just stretch your leg out this way. And I'm like, no, that's not, that don't cure nothing. What you doing? You all right? So as I go to break, I just want you to think about that and think about that in the context of if you're going to call in, like, you know, I want to know, like, have y'all thought about this? Have y'all thought about, like, what this means in terms of you think you're inheriting a house and that bill comes due? Have you thought about that in terms of reparations? Have you thought about, like, right now how you would deal with it without, like, how do you deal? Have you thought about the difficult conversations you have to have? Have you thought about, like, what kind of person, what kind of parent will have like 3 mortgages on a house and not tell you? Have we really dealt with like what life is leaving us with right now? It's a lot. So I'm going to just say that, and I'm going to go take a quick break as usual, and then we'll go to the calls. But I really, you know, I'm curious. I'm always curious as to, like, what the other point of view is. I'm always curious as to, like, well, what everybody say? Not just me. Like, what is your experience? I would like to know, like, what you've been through. So I'm going to set the phones up. I want to hear from that, and then we'll be back. fam. We are back, and we're going to take some calls. Let's keep it concise, fam. I want to get a few people in, but I want to get in and get out. People got to go to bed. Anyway, I am coming to 240. What's your name? Where you calling from, and what's on your mind? This thing won't go.
This is Anya coming out of D.C.
What's going on? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Okay, good.
Well, I had a quick comment, and it's this. We have to understand in 2019 where we stand as a group of people. And if you're living in your own little bubble and you're not directly affected because you have a nice job or whatever, you're hooked to a boomer, and your bubble is okay, and you walk around and you call yourself blessed, while the rest of your people are getting plucked off. We're either going to sit by passively and be annihilated, or we're going to stand up on something.
Okay. I agree with that.
Because right now we have a group of people who are out here trying to do the work, and then we have a massive group that is completely sleepwalking. Like, hello, it's 2019. Are you serious? Do you not understand? Sometimes it's unbelievable to even imagine that it's possible.
Yeah, they do the bare minimum.
But yeah, at the very minimum, you should be at least aware.
I agree. I totally agree. But we live in a space where a lot of people and I don't want to do adult work. Like, or adult work is considered like I went and I bought groceries. You know, I'm an adult. I bought, you know, I did what I got to do. I bought groceries for the house or whatever. It's like, no, there's a whole job outside of your home that you have to do that involves politics, that involves like resources for you and your group because you're a part of this group. There's a whole nother job that you've totally abdicated, and you don't see that.
Exactly.
Well,
and I think a lot of that responsibility was abdicated when we chose assimilation.
Well, like, what else are we gonna choose though? Like, see, the thing is, I think we make it like the government, or I think we make it like the government offered us a choice. We're gonna give you resources and give you the ability to live over here and thrive, or we're gonna put you over here. All the resources were over here. We went over here not because like we just wanted to be around another group of people. We went over here because that's where all the resources was. That's what all the resources were. The separate but equal was never equal. So it wasn't like, and it wasn't even like, I think we tend to have like this degree of nostalgia for like Jim Crow. Because really when you talk about it, you're talking about having nostalgia for Jim Crow.
I think the nuance in what I was trying to say was that when we leave our core neighborhoods where there's a group of us in order to pursue, I understand that we are allergic to wealth or wealth repellent in this country. Mm-hmm. But those of us who have the means to not move back in and try to change the community in which you come from, because there's an inherent value in being around whiteness.
No, it's not a bit around. No, but see, that's where I disagree. And I'm gonna let you finish. But that's where I disagree. There's not, no, I don't think there's an inherent, I don't think people think there's an inherent value to being around whiteness. I think that's where the good schools are. That's where it's safe. Like this country hasn't allowed us to be whole. Like they haven't allowed us to, like they've made us a contagion to wealth, which means that they've made us not be able to build wealth in the country that we built. So like, it's not like, well, we are doing okay over here, but we're going over here because we think their water is wetter or something like that. That's not what's happening. They've literally made us a contagion to everything. And so like, I don't think nobody goes there to just be like, what's going on, Chad? How you doing? I don't think that's what happens. I don't think that's what happens at all. Like, it's just kind of like Jamil Hill saying, oh, Well, if black people just went to HBCUs, if black athletes, Jamil, first of all, I think you went to like Michigan State or something. So I don't know what you're talking about. But the second thing is like, it's not just about the athlete. White America has built the whole mechanism around football that the athlete just plugs into when he gets to Notre Dame or wherever. That's not there at the black school, because the black school was never allowed to have money and have the endowment and accrue the wealth, because the bottom castness of black, there's no way to escape that unless you close the lineage wealth gap. There's no way to do it.
Right, I'm saying our best Band-Aid helpful solution to survive right now is not, we have to abandon the American individualism model, and we have to start thinking communal and group, even on a local basis.
I mean, I agree with you, fam. I'm gonna answer that. I'm gonna answer that offline.
Right now, there's not going to be another way to survive.
We're not gonna survive. Like, if we don't listen, let me just tell you this: there's no other way. I'm not saying we can't. I'm not saying we should not embrace communalism, especially politically and otherwise. I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm telling you though is that just extends the life a little bit longer. There's no survival in that, because America's getting too expensive. Like what you're basically telling us is to do what immigrants used to do. Like, and be together and be, but even that only prolongs. There's like, I don't think we understand. There's no way to do this. There's no way for us to continue to be in the richest country in the world with the cost of being in this country now without having reparations. It's not there's no other way. We can cling together for a while. We should. Like, remember them ants that was clinging together because it was a hurricane or whatever? Fine. I agree. But the point of the matter is, like, that still is only a Band-Aid.
I'm not saying they're mutually exclusive. I'm saying that they have to be coincided together.
I'm saying that I agree. Do them together.
And I think
but it's still not gonna fix
the other.
Yeah, I agree, but one's still not. I agree with you. I thank you, Carl. I appreciate that. I'm gonna let you go because I want to get to some other callers. But here's the thing. You know, the one thing with Jamil Hill, like, I don't think people understand. Right? Or whatever. What's the child's name? Yeah, Jamil Hill. Like, she wrote that article about HBCUs and athletes should just go to black colleges. But you're writing for the Atlantic. You're not writing for the Griot. You're not writing for a black publication. Like, how do we let people talk sometimes? Like, how do we let you have a conversation? You're writing for the Atlantic, telling these black athletes to go to a HBCU and play. You go or start a black magazine or something and go play. You know why you won't go play? Because there's no money there. That's the same reason why the athlete won't go there and play. Because of the lack of resources and the lack of plugging into everything that makes a football team does not exist at Howard in the same way that it exists for these top tier football teams. Why do y'all let these people write and talk? And it's always got to be me. It's always, Antonio got to be the one to say it. You let her just talk and be wild and say anything. All right, I'm going to 202. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hi, am I on the air?
Yeah, you're on the air. What's going on? How you doing?
Oh, okay. I wanted to peace and blessings. Love your show.
Thank you.
You actually struck a nerve with me dealing with these elders. I'm going to tell you a story, and I want to share the story. The story is real for your listeners to learn. I'm actually a caregiver for my grandmother. She's 89 years old.
Okay.
And she is not on Medicaid. She actually has paid federal and government insurance that she inherited when my grandfather died.
Okay.
Now, she had a stroke. And as a result of that stroke, she had to be admitted to rehabilitation. They call it, rehab. Now, under the insurance, and this is what I want everybody to really kind of get in tune to, that rehab insurance is all legislated, it's all defined. You only get 30 days of it. And after 30 days, you can get an extension up to 60 days. Okay? Now, this is paid insurance. So you would think in your mind, you don't have no definitive timeline or anything. If you're paying your insurance all these years, you good, right?
Yeah,
Let me tell you something. You called me. Let me tell you something. these people, and, okay, I want you to put all this all up in the vision, all up in your brains at the same time. My grandmother also has assets, okay? She's got land, she's got multiple homes and things, and we didn't know if she was going to come out there or not. But let me just tell you this, and this was 3 years ago. These people called me on a Thursday. They called me on a Thursday.
Not a Thursday.
They told me that she had, on a Thursday, baby. We was at our 59th day, okay? So we were outside the timeline out of 60 days. I kid you not, they told me, if you do not pick your mother, I call her my mom, and I'm her caregiver, listed on the papers. They called me on a Thursday, and they said, if you do not come and pick her up by Friday, that I will be charged, or she will be charged, or her estate, $10,000 a month. I swear to God.
This is a private insurance company? This is private insurance?
Private, baby. Private. Let me tell you, I had to get on the move. I had to move quickly and swift. And I had to call my husband, took off work. I said, ain't no way in hell Mama come home. And I told my husband, we went in our own, in our home. And I said, look, we bringing her home. We moved stuff and put stuff in the basement, piled shit all up in the living room just to give grandmama a room. Because I said, I'd be damned if we're going to be charged. Because I knew what they were doing. They were going to charge her home. And they were going to try to steal her house. So I had to actually make that move. Or she would have been liable. So that is to say that when we see with these shenanigans, you got to move quickly. Then on top of that, when she got sick, that's when I got all up in the business because I'm working, you sick. So then I found out she got a reverse mortgage.
And did she, wait a minute, hold on, wait a minute. Did she tell you or did she ever discuss this reverse mortgage with you?
No,
or anybody?
Ma'am. It's only when she got sick in that hospice, they started threatening me with $10,000 a month when I had to kind of come in and start looking at like her business and financial. So because she was so sick and I had the authority to get into the financial stuff, I would have known. I'm just working with my daily life, my husband, my children. It wasn't until she got sick that all this got open for me. But I had to move in to protect her, and I thank God. And let me just tell you this ain't even Medicaid. This was a private insurance that paid and threatening me like that. But they had the wrong one. I'm like, all right, she come home. Hell no. I saw work, we going to get Mom, because we ain't got that kind of money. And I knew she had assets, and I have to protect her assets. We got land and stuff that's been in our family for over 250 years.
See, and let me just pause you right there, fam. And I'm gonna let you continue, but let me just pause you right there. What America has done is create another America that is outside the real America, where like 200K is doable. Like you can get the 200K, $10,000 a month. Okay, we get the family together. We're gonna have to pay that for mom and them. She in the home. They have created this alternative America that we've not been included in. See, that's why we need reparations, because all this she's telling us, private insurance, Medicaid, everybody asking for their money and we ain't got none. You can't say you don't need reparations when everybody's asking for their money. Now, here's what I will say too. There's no way that she shouldn't have talked to somebody about that reverse mortgage. I don't even know why she got it, but there's no way she shouldn't have talked to somebody about it. Are we talking, as you talk about this, fam, I want to ask everybody, are we talking about this? You can't live like as long as people are living right now without assets.
This is how we're losing assets. That is a very important question. If I wasn't smart enough, or if I was just selfish and not wanting to protect, because I know she has a lot to protect. Now, we've got some deep dysfunction within ourselves, because I also had a subsequent fight with other family members. They were like, oh, put her in a nursing home. They just too bourgeois. They don't have time. They on their vacations and doing this and doing that. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to adjust my life, and I'm bringing Mama home. At the same time, they don't even understand $10,000 a month. That's going to burn out all of the equity in our home, and we're exceptional. We are exceptional. We're the 1%. We've got land. Ain't no way in hell that they're gonna burn out that little house, can burn out this land that's been in our family for over 250 years. For some corporation, get the fuck out of here, man.
Calm down, calm down. Language, and children watch. Language, please.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
But
I just got all passionate. It is a very important topic, and the reason why it is important is because, first of all, we got to learn how to maintain and retain our assets, because when we get our reparations, we need to know what to do with it. Okay?
no, I agree with that. But here's where we would differ. I don't think those are. Is this your? What did you say? This your mama or your grandmama? Who is this? I'm talking about.
This is my grandmother.
Let me just say this.
Years old, and guess what? She living.
Okay, I hear you. But like, you can't get old with no money. Like the old age ain't built for broke. And what I will say is, at the age that when you get old, are those really her assets anymore? Or are those your assets? Like, no, we gotta ask the question. Like, you don't get to keep holding assets. I need these assets to take care of you and me. Like, you don't get to keep holding assets and having control at that age. You don't get to do that anymore. You gotta let that go. And you don't get to not tell me the messes that you've made that you shouldn't have made. And you gotta let me make a decision about how I deal with that and you, because you've behaved irresponsibly.
We getting stuck because we're not having those conversations. And if it wasn't for me, and then I told the people who were going against it, you wouldn't have nothing. You're getting stuck because we're not having a conversation. That's why I wanted to tell my story. And this don't have nothing to do with Medicaid. This is private insurance. And this is how they was going after me. Okay? I'm a working person. I ain't even poor. I ain't supposed to be poor in their eyes, but we all poor.
I agree.
It's not Medicaid.
I agree, fam.
They doing me like that.
I agree.
Dragging my ass the same way.
I agree. I want to thank you for that personal call.
Okay, thank you, baby.
No, I appreciate you calling in.
Yes, we got.
Listen, the whole thing. The reason I pulled up this thing that shows you, like, you can put your assets in this thing or whatever. You can either transfer them out before 55 to your heirs, or you can, even if you still live there, you can transfer them out to your heirs before that 55 or whatever, or you can put them in that trust or whatever. The system and the system won't come after the asset after that. But the system is built for transfer. Y'all got to transfer this stuff over. Whatever little bit you got to transfer it over. You got to transfer it over. It's not yours no more. Stop trying to take it and live your best life. I'm not going to say you get to still live in it. Right? But stop, like, you can't live your best life off of this and take a second and third mortgage or a reverse mortgage and do this and do that. No, the whole system is built on transfer. It's really built on wealth and transfer. But we don't have the one, we gotta have the other. You don't get to still be there doing stuff and not tell me until you in the hospice and I don't know. If you don't get up, you don't get up right now. I will grab you up. You done messed up over stuff. Get up. Come look at the mess you've made. People like, well, you being hard. No, you being ageist. You don't want to hold nobody responsible because they're elder. Everybody got to be held responsible. Everybody has a role to play. What have you been doing with this money that you got? You didn't even tell me about. I didn't get none of it. A second mortgage, a reverse mortgage, all this stuff going on. What's all this tomfoolery? So I'm going to the next call. I am going right now to 773. 773, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Yvette, what's up? This is Marlon. They doing Chicago. How you doing?
Pretty good. How about you?
Good. I just called the show because, Nellie Fuller, he has a quote. Nellie Fuller says, if you don't understand white supremacy, everything you think you know will confuse you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll take it a step further. And I say, if you don't understand the data, everything you think you know will confuse you. And I just had a conversation today, just a few hours ago with a friend of mine. And she doesn't listen to the show, so I can talk about it a little bit. But we just had a conversation. She lives in a home. It's about 3 generations that lives in her house now. And they have been trying to get their grandmother to put the property in a trust so they could avoid probate court.
Okay.
So their grandmother owns a few pieces of property. She has a couple of pensions coming in. and she owns maybe 3 or 4 pieces of property, and they had been trying for years to get their grandmother to put this property in a trust. Now, mind you, the grandmother, mother, and the daughter, the son, the grandmother, the mother's children, and I think it's 2 or 3 children live in the same house. But the grandmother owns a few pieces of property.
Okay.
And they had been trying to get her to put this property in a trust. So again, they could avoid probate when she passes, and they could leave the property, leave their children the property. Well, the grandmother recently got sick. And so they were able to, it's a very similar situation to the last caller. They were able to, look into her finances and see what was going on. Come to find out, the house they all live in a reverse mortgage. They thought it was paid for. A couple of the other pieces of property that the grandmother owns have 2 and 3 mortgages on them. And they discovered that the reason she was so resistant to putting these properties in the trust is because she didn't want to reveal that she's lived an overextended life, because she didn't understand that black people are largely poor people, and it's not even worth putting them in the trust now because it ain't nothing there.
Ain't nothing there.
They thought a few of these properties were paid off, but it's not there. It's not even worth it. And she's lived a life, and I've experienced this in my own life. People in my immediate family, we've lived a life not understanding the data that it's not feasible for those people to live. My father told me a few years ago that me and my 2 brothers, if we got together and started a business, we could amass $20-30 million in a few years. And he just doesn't know. He just doesn't know the limitations that we have as ADOS people. And as hard as this is to say, and it's difficult for me to say this, but ADOS, we're gonna have to start telling our family and our friends that until justice comes, until justice comes, we don't have to downgrade as much as possible. We don't have to downgrade and live. We don't have to live like poor folk.
Well, let me just say this. Let me just say this too. You're right. But I think people have, like I saw somebody in the chat say, when I was talking about the elderly people messing up, oh, come on, Yvette. Like, stop with this stuff. Like, these people did, like, I'm not talking about all elders. I'm not talking about all boomers. But the people that we're talking about, like with the person who just called in the article we read, these people made irresponsible decisions. Now, nobody cares about us. Like, right, they'll tell us to go work at McDonald's. You can find something somewhere. Nobody cares about what we go through, whether you're college educated or not college educated. If you're college educated, nobody cares about your student debt. If you're not college educated, nobody cares that you got to drive Uber or Lyft and you can't find a job. They ain't caring about you. But when it comes to them, oh, come on, Yvette, don't you have a heart? Aren't you? I do have a heart, but I understand when people are messed up. And if you messed up, I'm going to call you on it. I don't care whether you're 25 or 95. I don't care. I don't care whether you grandma or whether you are very young. If you have messed up, I'm gonna tell you that you have messed up something. And to do what she did, understand that you not only got cheated, you got lied to, because she didn't want to say that, like, I messed up the money. She didn't want to say it.
Listen, let me tell you. So we gotta get this thing in our minds, because listen, like you said, a lot of people we make mistakes, but if you got wealth, you can absorb those mistakes. Most ADOS folk, we're an emergency away from it being over with. One emergency, it's a wrap. It's over. And I've experienced this in my own life. You know, when you came to Chicago and did the 404s, I left my apartment. I live in a pretty decent part of town. I'm luckily I have military benefits that I'm able to live from. I live in a decent part of town. I left the apartment. You stayed in the guest room.
Yeah.
Well, guess what?
Appreciate you.
That guest room ain't the guest room no more, Yvette.
What is it?
Yvette, that guest room ain't the guest room no more.
What is it?
It ain't the guest room no more. I got 3 generations of folk living in my house now.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean,
it's hard out here, man. It's hard. It's hard out here. So we just gonna have to, we gonna have to start to our folks that unless and until justice come, man, we gonna have to make adjustments where we can, because it's hard out here. But I want to make an announcement real quick, and I get off the line.
Go ahead.
So ADOS Chicago, everybody that's going to the conference, we're doing a pep rally down here. So if you guys want to link up with us, we got a location and everything. So if you guys want to link up with us, shoot me an email at marlon@adoschicago.org. Marlon like Marlon Jackson, MARLON, at adoschicago.org. Adoschicago.org is also our website. You can go there and check us out as well. And we're also planning some other political things that I don't want to say too much about, but it's really, really important, and it can really help affect us 804 here in Chicago. So if you guys are interested in that, if you're listening to the show, shoot us an email at Marlon, M-A-R-L-O-N, at adoschicago.org, and we will see you in October.
All right, appreciate it, Marlon. Thanks as always
Thank
for
you,
calling
Yvette.
in. That was a very informative call. Reach out to Marlon. Marlon's good people. God dog, I can't believe Marlon got that many people in his apartment. That was a lovely little apartment too. Nice skyline, everything. I enjoyed myself. So, and I appreciate you, Marlon. I appreciate, staying there for the event. I stay with the people. That's why I be. But, woo, I can't believe that he done had to move. And then you got to think about, nobody thinks about what happens to Marlon's peace after he done had to move all these people in. That was a peaceful apartment. What happens to your peace? Like, the quiet of your life when you got to do that. Oh, we don't even talk about the stuff that happens, the trauma. 502, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette, how you doing this
Pretty
evening?
good, fam. How about you?
You are bringing up an on point show tonight, and there have been some excellent stories that has been shared. Over the time that I've shared a little bit of what I've had going on with you. This is Michael Hicks, Louisville, Kentucky. ADOS is well represented, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of y'all come October. Like again, my mom passed in April of 2018, and the real life story of everything that we had to deal with in her last years, as her health declined, all the drama with the Medicaid, drama with court cases and nursing homes and all of that. Everything that you have talked about this evening is an ADOS story. Even when there's situations where you do the research, you lawyer up, you're able to get a nickel or two, you will not be able to hold on to that nickel with ADOS life. So, like as I said, I'm grateful for tonight's show and tonight's stories, and the listeners and the people need to hear these stories and to hear our conversations about this. And a lot of times we don't want to talk about stuff like this because we're forever trying to front or put on, create this alternative image or engage in this fantastical thinking, or try to fake it until we make it. And these are the type of stories that we must share in the name of doing a more real and solid and legitimate righteous justice politics.
Absolutely. You ain't lied.
And again, like the story you shared, look, my mom's Medicaid bill was $243,000 and some change. We negotiated it to just a shade under $100,000. And again, that struggle is real. It is the truth. Near the end of our life, we got mom a quantum of justice. But as far as anything that's going to be able to be passed down, at least to my kids, at least from this situation, no. And I'm already, in the name of being a caregiver myself, I'm already, imagining and thinking of scenarios on how I'm going to need to work with that. So yeah, issues of peace of mind and trying to get a sense of centeredness in the midst of all the sorts of drama and chaos that you have to live with. I mean, this is a challenge. This is ADOS life. This is real talk. And I appreciate you having this show.
It's beyond the challenge, fam. It's beyond the challenge. It's beyond the challenge. Because honestly, ADOS, we the most responsible of our group. Like, we be here talking about politics. If we doing this, if we going through this right now, like, understand, like, if this group is going through this right now, like, what is the rest of America going through? This is us, fam.
It demands superhumanity to just tread water. And that's, superhumanity to just tread water. And that ain't right. This ain't right. There is something fundamentally broken and wrong with this. And this is why we got to get up and do this. This is why we do this, fam. This is why we do this, people. This is why we do this, and why, October is critical. It's a daggone shame that we only have one presidential candidate showing up for this event.
Yep,
it's a daggone shame.
And we got we got some we've been going back and forth with, going back and forth, but like confirmed. Like Jesus, we've been going back and forth with you a lot. And if y'all come, it's fine. But God, that's a lot. But you're right. Go ahead, fam. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and the brown media functionaries that attempt to sell another game, that is the class of people that are severely doing our people a disservice. Severely doing the stories like this. You don't see them talking about these stories on MSNBC. You don't see Joy Reid talking about this stuff. You don't even see cats like Roland getting into this stuff.
Nope.
This is some of the real talk. This is what demands the necessity of an active and advocate black media.
You're right. No, you're right, fam. You're exactly right. I agree wholeheartedly with you. And I want to thank you for calling. I want to thank you for calling in. Everybody who's calling in to share their story. Like these are our stories. That's why everybody's calling in to share them. This is what our life looks like.
That's right.
So this is why we do what we do. Like you gonna hear Joy Reid get up there and talk about like the Democrats and how bad Trump is. You're gonna hear Roland say a lot of the same thing. We got to get more judges because he thinks he's smarter than the average bear. Like I'm smarter than the average. I got my stuff set up.
Loud and saying nothing.
Yep. Well, he thinks he's got his stuff together. Like he did a whole bootstrap about what we got to own our own stuff. And I said, geez, God, it's like a baby voice. Like y'all just got to leave me alone with this stuff. Like y'all, you don't know what you're talking about, Mr. Charter School. But yeah, that's what it is. So. All right.
Got to do it and tell the truth, Yvette. Thank you very much.
Thank you for what basically your testimony, fam. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Going to the next call, a familiar call, 310. What's going on?
What up? This time talk. Yvette, pull up the seesaw.
You sent me a seesaw. Hold on, let me find this seesaw you sent me. All right.
Yeah, pull up that seesaw. Because it's time to have a discussion because I think everybody's not really connecting everything. And it's funny because you know how these numbers look to me? These 100, the 250, they look a lot like student loan numbers. But somehow don't nobody know about the student loan numbers. They just in our account. But mama knee surgery and mama elderly care, it becomes a familial need to recognize that. Now, I'm not saying that for every Adolph family, but I think it's a large majority. It's a very individual cost. And the reason why I pull up this seesaw is it has, if you notice, you're going to see two sides. And you think about two sides having weight, but you forget the yellow box in the middle. And what I think the yellow box in the middle represents is what I call us, the swing generation. So we have this generation of black folks with student loans promising their kids they're going to pay for their school. And taking care of their mama who had a great life. Because when I read that story from the Atlantic, it sounded like Edna had a very good life. Worked at a factory, owned a home, got to have seconds and thirds on the house, and at the end, she just died in her daughter's husband's arms. Now, I'm not saying that what the quality of that is all the way through, but it's looking a lot better than a lot of our prospects even after college. So this swing generation, almost what we're functionally like being as a role, is we're the holders of America's lot. We gonna tell the younger generation that we gonna pay for your life to be as good as white folks, with no reason to believe in that. And then we gonna tell the older generation we gonna make up for all the messes that you made politically and economically. And catch it all, and then scream at the government instead of really dealing with what happened in this household. Why is it your asset when you're 70, when you're 75, when you're 80, when you're 85? I mean, I don't know how many of y'all had a conversation with somebody who retired, and when you go to talk about the asset, they say, yeah, that's mine. Well, I thought it was for legacy, though. Well, it's not that till I die. Wait, but I'm 50, or I'm 60. And I just think that one of the things that we're not seeing as a discussion is we moved literally at the speed of light through the projection of aspiration. So people that are 70, when their kids was coming up, They didn't have to promise nothing to their kids. Everything was extra. What do I mean? They bought a house that was Edmund's house was $24,000 in the article. They bought a house for $24,000 with a GI Bill possible. They, I'm not talking about whether they went through racism and struggle. I'm talking about the ability to build assets. They lived in a neighborhood where they could grow old. Their parents, they made no promises to. They sent money home as they felt. Their parents, when they aged, because the surgeries didn't exist, and because there was no expectation, just died out with a bad knee or a bad eye. Now you might say, well, if the surgeries are around, they would have paid for it. Well, the surgery didn't exist, so they didn't have to. And so, like now, what's ended up happening is a group now, our age. When I say our age, I'm talking about 30 to 50 right now. Prime age people have $11 in worth in Miami. If you pull up to Boston, it's 8. If you pull up to LA, it's 200. And what you find is somehow you think that it's your job to fix the generation beneath you and the generation above you and forget yourself. And I don't think that's the way any of this works. Now, some of y'all got a great-grandma or a grandma or a mama that did a lot for you, and for that, I say, great for you. But I'm saying on a mass scale, the reason these numbers exist is because it didn't happen that way. There was a lot of latchkey kids out there. See, this soccer practice, mimicking white folks, really being invested in your kid at a level where you create a suburban Ivy League level, that's some new stuff for black folks. I'm not saying that people in the 70s wasn't good parents in the range of what they consider good. But what I think happened after the Cosby Show, as we start to make that transition into the 90s and the 2000s, is this reinvention of black parenting as a gingerbread cookie cutout of white parenting with no cookie dough. And I feel like I don't understand when I listen to some of the people how a grandma that don't know how much debt you have, you know how much debt she has. This is either an exchange or not at all.
Uh-oh.
I'm just saying it like it is. Because I feel like when we look at it, so many of us are carrying this debt. And one of the things that makes Breaking Brown, Tone Talk, these spaces very interesting, it's the first time a lot of y'all ever told somebody how much student debt you have, how much credit card debt you have. See, older people will tell us in a second, I don't have no credit card. Well, you ain't got no elderly care or no funeral savings. So I'm coming up with a conversation because if you bring up the seesaw, just to end my point, you can't be the answer for the next generation or the past generation if you ain't the answer for your own generation. Because right now, all we are is the pivot in other people's lives.
Ooh.
And you got to live your own. That's all I want to say.
Oh, thank you, Tone. Go. All right, Tone. Tone said you are just the pivot in other people's lives. You are the pivot in other people's lives. Oh, you can't be that. That ain't no way you gonna go. Oh, yeah, that ain't gonna work out. That's not gonna work. That is not going to work. Woo! Tone came with the fire again. I'm going to 757. What's going on?
What's up, Yvette Carnell?
What's going on, Otis? How you doing?
I know you covered so much. Shout out to Tone. He put an awesome video out taking down Jamel Hill stuff. I'm going to try to go slow and cover some of this. That sister that called in and telling you about her land, I'm not going to go into the detail and take up the time, but I'm going to tell her this. If you keep on telling me about your grandmama had some land, let me tell you what I know from experience, and I ain't going to give you all the details because the people that I suffered through with this are my loved ones and family, and they still alive. If you got land and you haven't studied what's going on and what your township has in store for that land in their 20 and 30-year perspectives, you better get on it, and you better get you an attorney that's not from the area you live in. If that sister's still listening to me, ask me how I know. I've been through it with family. When you have older people that will not do exactly what some of these people in this chat will do, I'm going to put it this way. If you can't be honest with yourself, you can't be honest with anybody. What I mean by that, stop hearing things and thinking you know what was said.
if you're not willing to find out what words mean when they're said to you, when you're talking about getting a reverse mortgage, when you're not willing to read and understand what's going on with Medicaid, like all the stuff you went through, I literally told you probably about a year ago about when I went into business in Dallas, and they had an area with black professionals, and when I found out they were taking these $25,000 loans and reverse mortgages, I sat down and explained to them, you've been working long enough, you can go to the credit union and get a loan and pay me X amount of dollars. Now, I was doing that work to 60 to 65% of what the going market was. But the market rate was in dollars. Do you know what the Negroes told me?
What they say?
Why should I pay you for that? Why should I pay you for that? What's that tell you? We as a people do not have enough respect for our own people. I brought them the truth and told them, you're being taken to the bank. Don't do that. Would literally write out a prospectus, show them what every piece of material cost that they wanted, show them what my profit was, and because I would like out of $100,000 that they got from an outside bid, if I charged them $65,000 and told them that I would make 25, they would worry about why I'm making 25, not understanding that the person who was bidding against me was buying more volume, was running a business, and was probably making $45,000 to $50,000 off of them. They didn't even want me to make the 25 because why? I'm just another nigga. I hate to use that word, but I'm going to put it to you straight. I see a lot of people out here on Twitter and Facebook, and I keep on asking you why they won't share your data, why they won't show don't. Number one, they won't be honest with themselves. A perfect example is a tweet where a white lady came into the stream talking about wealth, and she used the term, this is competent to me. COMFITING. And I watched people respond, and then I went and put the definition of that word up to show them. She came to you at a position of superiority because she knew that you did not understand that that word meant it was mentally challenging to her. Not that it made her feel uncomfortable. And it was about slavery and the people at the plantations here where I live in Virginia and all through the South where they give these tours. She was saying that maybe it was just too much to be talking about slavery. That was comforting to her. That meant it mentally disturbed her. Not that it moved her passionately or what her heart or her feelings. So my point to you is when black people refuse to be honest with themselves, what they don't know, that's how they get lost in the schemes that end up in reverse mortgages. I literally did home for a lady that was like a second mother to me because she was retiring. And I did it to her for little or nothing. So that because her house was paid for, but it was in what you said when you said the people said it had to be in good repair.
Yeah.
Hers, but then what the real estate companies call deferred maintenance. See, they got a term for people when they're poor that won't let us tell them what it is. The Negro couldn't afford to keep it up. So I literally got with her family members, fixed a home for her for little or nothing. Don't you know, less than 6 months later, I walked in that lady's house. She had a little Korean lady and another sister sitting there with her about to sign a reverse mortgage.
Ah.
I called her outside, explained to her why that wasn't a good idea. And you know what she told me? Literally, niggas stay out of my business. And I've known that woman since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. So I'm going to tell you something about our people. We got an inferiority complex. We believe that integration actually meant assimilation, trying to move into being like white folks. We didn't understand it meant to be able to walk around.
You saying that we believe like Antonio said that we're chocolate covered white people or like lightly chocolate, like but like you saying like that, like we just bought into the idea that like that made us them, like sitting at the lunch counter made us like.
Oh yeah, and I'll tell you what's even worse. Antonio puts it down and people hate it because it's straightforward, but the truth is sometimes crass and nasty. The bad part about it is, over my 6 decades, I met a lot of black people that talk black for camaraderie, but when they leave you, they don't want to be around you except when they can look down on you. And we got to get over it.
Stuff.
Got to be honest with ourselves, understand what we don't know, and be willing to learn. Much love to you, sister.
Appreciate
I'll see you
it.
in October.
Appreciate it,
Get it
Otis.
on. And look,
All right,
I
all
told
right.
you, I studied Martin Luther King the last 2 years in high school. So when you got Martin Luther King on there as the center for your conference, I'm feeling good. It's going to be on.
You know it is, Otis. You know how I do. All right, I'm going to probably the last call of the night. I am going to 970. 970, what is your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind? Hello? 970, you there? I can hear you there. This is not a horror movie. Hello? All right, we ain't got time. I am going to 816. 816, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Yes, good evening. My name is Barbara, and I'm calling from Kansas City, Missouri. How
What's
are
going
you,
on?
Yvette?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. I won't complain, but I do have a short story to tell you what happened here in Kansas City.
Okay, let me know.
Every year, the city of Kansas City, Missouri sells homes that folks haven't been able to keep up the back taxes. So if they get 3 years delinquent, they sell these houses on the courthouse steps.
Okay.
So I have a girlfriend, and we've been friends for over 50 years. My daughter flies in from Arizona to see if there's some homes that she could purchase. She's trying to get into the real estate game, so forth, so forth. So I go with her and everything. I come on back home. So she has this list. So lo and behold, I'm looking at the list, and up pops my girlfriend's mother, their family home. The mother and father died. They didn't have a will. So my girlfriend, which is the oldest sibling, she been living in the home along with the brother and some more family members, trying to keep up the taxes, keep up the house. Well, she got behind. 3 years. So the house sold. It had $8,000 back taxes, and it had been valued at $220,000. They lost their home, the family home, for $8,000 back tax.
Well, was they out of work, or what was going on?
I don't know.
Okay.
We're talking about 8 siblings. All these people are well.
Oh, okay, I understand. Okay.
I don't understand it. And now everybody's crying and what can we do? Do we need to get it? Can we get a lawyer? Well, it gets too late for all of that now. But it just hurts to see black people lose that kind of property, And I told her, I said, why you didn't say something? Why, you didn't say anything. So she's met this white man that lives in that vicinity because this home is located in the Hyde Park area, which is a nice area here in Kansas City. So this white man she meets, and she brings him in her home and shows him her home, and she's like, could you please loan me $8,500 so I can keep my home, keep the home, and blah, blah, blah. So he writes down all this information, and he tells her, I'm going to get back with you. That never happened. He went down there and bought that house.
Yeah, he did. And who you gonna blame? Like when the snake bites you, you gonna blame the snake for being a snake?
That's right.
I blame him, but I blame him for but for that's some dirt stuff. But what do you think? You think he was just gonna loan you the money?
She's one of these black folks that just really, I won't say love white people, but she's always said, white folks do more for her than anybody else. So she put her
he did a lot.
Man.
Yeah, and so, now the home is gone that her father and mother worked so hard for. They only paid $13,000 for it when they moved in it 55 years ago, and now it had been appraised at $220,000. Gone. Talking about black wealth.
Gone.
Gone. So that's about all. I don't know what the moral of this story is. Make sure you get a will, or put it in probate. Let the judge figure it out so you guys can get something out of it.
Yeah, and if you, honestly, thank you, fam. I appreciate it. I'm appreciating these testimonies tonight. We're about to wrap it up, but I appreciate these testimonies tonight. And I apologize if I didn't get through everybody. But like, not only that, like you gotta get that stuff up. And I think some people are worried that they haven't been the kind of parents to really know whether or not their kids gonna screw them over. Well, they put it in a living trust. There are mechanisms and levers. Like, you're gonna have to do something, though. You can't just be here and just float around life and I ain't got no will and I'm not gonna put it in no thing, and you better figure it out. And listen, I understand we don't have money for a lot of this stuff, but some of the main people who don't have this stuff be the same people who done bought a car, or I'm gonna go to this, I gotta live my best life. I watched the Oprah episode. Oprah talking to white women. She is not talking to you. Understand that. Get yourself together. Get your mind right. So I want to thank everybody for calling in tonight. It's been a really interesting show. I apologize to all the people that get in. I'm sure other people who didn't get in got some testimonies too. Everybody got some testimonies. Everybody got some testimonies about this. We're going to have to do another show about this, because just to get the people back in who got testimonies. So please read the book, especially if you're going to the conference. Where do we go from here? But read it even if you aren't going, because we're going to talk about it afterwards. That's Martin Luther King Jr. We're going to have that conversation. Please hit that like button before you go, fam. I would appreciate that. Please hit that bell if you have not. Please subscribe if you have not subscribed to the channel. If you want to donate, you can go to donatebrown.com. You can go to patreon.com/Carnell. You can buy a shirt in the description. But keep in mind, it's the 11th. I don't assure that you're going to receive it before the conference. That was the 10th. Also, I always try. I do try, but I'm just saying. Also, fam, please go to subscribe to Brown T.O. Not the number T.O. Subscribe to brown.com and give me your email so that I can contact you. I don't do that very often, but I need to. I feel like I'm going to need to do a lot of stuff. So I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. I think we're going to have these conversations, because what people don't really understand is everybody wants to talk about, like, what are we going to do for white supremacy? Yeah, that's part of it. That's a big part of it. Reparations is the thing to do. That's the thing to rally around. That is the thing, not around a project or history. No, this debt is the thing. We're doing that over here, but I don't think we understand to the level that we need to. There's a fight to be had over here as well, in terms of how the little that we do have is being managed and mismanaged, and how we do have to hold government accountable. Absolutely. Because government is redistributing wealth from the bottom to the top, and we're the bottom. So everybody within the state test, understand the mortgage interest deduction costs the government a buttload of money, and it only benefits the top 20% of Americans, and nobody cares. But they snatching stuff from people who are trying to make a little bit of money to pass down. Poor people trying to make a little bit of money to pass down to their kids. That is unreal. That is something that we should absolutely fight. As we fight for reparations, we should fight against this type of thing. And the states have a lot to do with that. So what that tells you is that what you should be doing in your state government, with your family, everybody, in terms of undoing or reducing or mitigating the damage of this law that your boy Bill Clinton signed into law. Like, these are things that have to happen. It has to happen in politics, and it has to happen in our houses. We have to get on one accord. We got to get on one accord about all this. You want to take on, some people want to be an army and take on everybody as an army, but we haven't even gotten ourselves together. You got to have a company. You got to have a platoon. You got to have all this stuff. We just got a bunch of soldiers running around trying to do their own thing. Everybody got to get together and figure out how we going to do this thing as a group, how we going to manage this as a group. You gotta. The kind of army you build is an intra-group thing. We haven't taken care of that. You just want to run out fighting, and this one got a musket, and this one got some kind of samurai sword. And I don't know what this one doing. He just hollering. You gotta figure that stuff out before you move. Has to happen intra-group, and then we take that out and we deal with the state, and we deal with reparations, and we deal with everything we got to deal with. But there's a lot that got to be fixed in here as we do that. I'm not saying do one or the other, do one. I'm saying we have to do all this stuff simultaneously. It's a lot of work, but it has to be done if we ever want to be American, if we ever want to have a piece of this pie. It's a heavy load, but it's got to do it. We got to do it. So that's it for today, fam. I will talk to you guys soon. We will have the conversation. Don't forget the week of the conference. The conference is the 4th and the 5th. That whole week right there, before the 4th and leading up to the 4th, don't forget, fam, there will be no shows. That week. So there'll be no Monday show, no Wednesday show. That week leading up to the conference. Please do not forget that. Hit the like button as you go out. Just like you're turning off the light. 2,000 people in here. Only 800 likes. Hit that like button for me. And we will talk again soon, fam.